When people find out I live in Connecticut, I always get the same reaction. They picture Greenwich, hedge fund managers, guys in salmon colored pants at a country club. And look, I'm not going to tell you that doesn't exist because it does. But that's not the Connecticut I know. I'm Jennifer Lockwood. I have lived here my entire life, and I have helped families move from all over the country to relocate here. And what I've noticed is that most people arrive with a very specific picture of this state in their heads, and it's missing about 90% of the story. So today I'm going to talk to you about those things that people don't know about Connecticut. I live and work here in Connecticut. My contact information is on the screen and below. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions. Now let's start with the reputation because it's worth talking about. Connecticut is one of the wealthiest states in the country, and that image of Fairfield County, the country clubs, the prep schools, it has a way of swallowing up everything else about the state. It's the first thing people mention and sometimes the only thing they know. After living my entire life here, I can tell you that's generally pretty unfair. Connecticut is tiny. It's only 5,500 square miles. And within that space, you have coastal towns, we have lakes, former mill cities, farmland, dense forests, and some of the most beautiful New England villages you will ever see. You can drive 20 minutes and feel like you're in a completely different world. What I find is that Connecticut quietly becomes home in a way that a lot of places just can't. It's not about loud, it's about what it offers. And the people who land here and actually explore it, they tend to stay. And I think that's quite something. The salmon pants crowd, yeah, that's real, but they're only one piece of the puzzle. And today I want to show you the rest of it. I'm going to go over 5 topics that keep people here, and stay to the end where you hear the reason why people leave. Because yes, people do leave the state of Connecticut. So let's start with number 1, and that is the seasons and probably the most underrated fact of the outdoor access in the state. Winter is cold and snowy. It actually feels like winter. Spring comes in slowly and everything starts to wake up. We get muddy trails. There's trees in bloom. It's really beautiful in its own way. Summer is warm and green and humid. The fall is something people are not prepared for the first time they see it. Connecticut actually has the longest fall foliage season in New England. When those hills turn red and orange in October, the whole state looks like a painting. People who move here from places with 1 or 2 seasons, or worse, no real seasons at all, often tell me the 4 seasons end up being one of the favorite things they love about living here. And all of that is in the backdrop for the outdoor scene that most people have no idea exists here in Connecticut. It ranks number 1 in the United States for hiking density, over 825 miles of blue blaze trails, plus the Appalachian Trail. For a state this small, the trail system is pretty remarkable. Sleeping Giant State Park in Hamden is the most well-known, a stone observation tower at the summit with views over Long Island Sound. And in Litchfield County, there's rolling hills and the Mohawk Trail. My personal favorite trail is Macedonia State Park, and that's in Kent. And it has a number of trails, and when you get to the top, you have the view of 3 states. On to number 2, and that's the history. One of the things that keeps people rooted here, and honestly, one of the things that surprised me the most when I started really exploring the state, is the history. It's really everywhere, and it's generally fascinating. Connecticut is one of the original 13 colonies and the 5th state to join the Union, but the history goes way deeper than textbook stuff. The hamburger was invented here. Lewis Lunch in New Haven has been making them since 1900, served on toast and still going strong. The Frisbee, also invented in Connecticut. Yale students were tossing around pie tins from Frisbee Pie Company, and the rest is history. The Pez factory in Orange, Connecticut, yes, the candy Pez. They have an actual visitor center where you can see the whole operation. The first nuclear-powered submarine, the USS Nautilus, was built in Groton, Connecticut in 1954, and you can still visit at the Submarine Force Museum there. Finally, Mark Twain wrote Huckleberry Finn and 16 other books while living in Hartford, Connecticut. His neighbor was Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. And you can actually visit both their houses, and they're walking distance to each other. I still come across pieces of history like that surprise me in Connecticut. Now, before we go on to number 3, I wanted to share my relocation guide to help you understand which towns in Connecticut would be the best fit for your lifestyle, your budget, and your goals. You can download that for free in the description, and the QR code is on the screen. Now, number 3. Connecticut has a thriving wine trail. Over 40 vineyards. Most people have no idea. Hopkins Vineyard in New Preston sits on a hill in Litchfield Hills, views that are generally pretty hard to describe, especially in the fall. It's a 10th generation family farm with live music on weekends. Saltwater Farm Vineyard has tastings inside a converted World War II airplane hangar. One of my favorite wineries is Aquila's Nest Vineyards right in Newtown. It's a family-owned operation perched on a hilltop that used to be a 200-year-old farm. And the setting alone is worth the drive. What I love about the Connecticut wineries is that they're unpretentious. You're on old farmland, the owners often are the ones pouring the wine, and you leave with a bottle you actually remember. So let's go on to number 4. What does daily life actually feel like here? And I'll stay up front. Your experience is going to completely depend on where you live in the state because it all has regional personality. The thing I keep coming back to is after living here my entire life, it is the community. Connecticut is small enough that people generally get connected. There's a groundedness to life here that's hard to find in the bigger, flashier places. You have beaches of Long Island Sound and the Berkshires up north. You could be skiing in Vermont in under 2.5 hours from the middle of the state. Now here's a quirky but very real part of Connecticut culture. There's no real professional sports team in the state. Absolutely none. And what that does is split Connecticut almost perfectly in half. Lower half of Fairfield County, you tend to be either the Yankees, the Mets, the Giants, the Jets, the Islanders, or Ranger fans. Head north to Hartford or toward Rhode Island, and it completely flips. You'll find Red Sox, Patriots, and Bruins. You'll find families where half will root for the New York teams and the other half will root for Boston. And then there's the pizza. The debate is real. New Haven-style pizza, specifically Frank Pepe's, is one of the most legitimately great things I've ever eaten. People from New York will fight you on this, but they're just wrong. Now on to number 5. One of the biggest reasons families specifically choose Connecticut is the public schools. This isn't just local pride, the numbers back it up. Connecticut ranks second in the nation for public school quality. Connecticut students have the highest median ACT scores in the country and some of the highest reading scores nationally. Connecticut high schools ranked second in the nation. That is remarkable for a state this size. And here's what I find interesting in my work is the quality of the public schools is often the deciding factor for many people relocating from other parts of the country. They do the research, they see the rankings, and that's what brings them here. The idea that they can access that level of education through the public system without private school tuition is genuinely compelling. Now, I promised you the honest version, so I have to talk about why people do leave Connecticut, because they do. Cost of living is the number one reason. Connecticut is not a cheap state, and it's important to go in with clear eyes about that. The tax burden here is real. You're paying state income tax, the car gets taxed annually. When you sell your home, there's a conveyance tax, both with the state and with your town. Property taxes vary significantly by town, but generally on the higher end compared to most of the country. And if you look at your electric bill, Connecticut consistently ranks among the highest electricity costs in the nation. Housing costs, particularly in Fairfield County along the shoreline, those costs eventually become the deciding factor and they move on to states where the dollar stretches a little bit further. It's a real conversation that I have openly with people all the time. Connecticut gives you a lot, but it asks a lot in return. Knowing that going in makes all the difference. So that's my honest take on what it's like living in Connecticut. Is it for everyone? No. If you need a major city's energy right outside your door, this probably isn't the place for you. But if you value real seasons, genuine history, access to nature, food culture worth caring about, an incredible public school system, plus a community that actually feels like one, Connecticut has a way of quietly becoming home. The people who land here and actually take the time to explore it tend to stay. And I think that says everything. There's a big difference between what you read online about the state and what you actually experience here day to day. So if you're considering a move here and you want to dive deeper into specific towns or have questions about the relocation process, drop me a comment below or give me a call, text me anytime. I help many people across the country and even internationally find a place to go home. I'm happy to talk about the real estate market and your options to live here, and I'm happy to talk through them. And if this gave you a different picture of Connecticut than you had before, that was exactly my goal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.